Okay, so it looks like we are live now. Hello, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us on another OWASP meeting. So as part of this meeting, we are going to have a small intro about the latest. Hello, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us on another OWASP. We are going to have a small update about the OWASP, and then we are going to have our main speaker, Ori Bendit from Checkmarks, about infrastructure as a code misconfigurations and how for you how to avoid them. I'm going to share my screen about the presentation. Okay, so as I said, this is a joint meeting between several chapters. We have Bristol, which is led by myself, and Craig Francis, which is on the call. We have Suffolk, which is led by David Flint and Martin Ross, and Wojciech. And then we have Dorset, where we have, among ourselves, Mark Davison, which is also led by Daniel and Alexius. We have, I think in Dorset, we have another leader, right, Mark?
Yeah, so Daniel's actually left us. We've got Mike and Nigel now as well.
Okay, I have to, I just took the latest from your OWASP page, which by the way needs to be updated, but I remember that you said something about some changes, yeah.
Yeah, that should have been updated by now. Never mind. We're also looking for new leaders if anyone's interested for next year.
Excellent, excellent. So that's good to know.
That one.
So if anyone from Dorset is interested to join the OWASP Dorset chapter as a leader, yeah, get in touch with Mark or Nigel or Mike. Excellent. So as you probably know, the OWASP mission is to promote the security, and is a non-profit organization which is about improving the security, the security of the software throughout the world. This is worldwide free and open community, and the mission is to make the security visible for everyone. As probably of you already know, the majority of people within OWASP are volunteers, just like myself and the leaders. There are only few. There is actually a handful of people which are full-time employees. The majority of OWASP consists of volunteers, people that are interested in just promoting the security and sharing their knowledge. So like I said, it is free for everyone, and it is free to participate in the OWASP projects, in OWASP meetings. The events, apart from the conferences, are free toward the end, and everyone is invited to. As part of the OWASP, you can actually become a member, and that's where you will have some discounts, reductions as part of the conferences and also as part of the training. So there are also some trainings which OWASP keeps organizing. Some of them are actually paid, but if you are an OWASP member, then the actual price of the training is reduced. And I'm going to give an example of a future training. Let's go to some project updates. There has been some recent promotions, and one of them is the OWASP Samurai. And this is a web training and testing framework, which you can use. It's open source, and you can use to actually perform training for your developers. Among the tools that are leveraged by this framework are the OWASP JIS shop, the OWASP ZAP utility, which is a very nice application written in PHP, and it's actually maintained pretty up to date all the time, and SQL map. Another project that has actually been promoted is the OWASP Threat Dragon. The leaders on this project are Mike Goodwin, John Gadsden, and Leo Reading. And because we have among ourselves John, I'm going to give him, I'm going to let him to tell us more about the OWASP Dragon. So John, if you can jump in and tell us a little bit more about it.
Cool, yeah, thanks for letting me sort of grandstand a bit about Threat Dragon. I've got the project page for Threat Dragon. So shall I? If you stop sharing and allow me to share, I can.
Yep.
I'll just. Oh, can I do this? Yes, I think I can. There we go. So yeah, there it is. I'm hoping you can now see the OWASP projects page. Yes. Katie, nod.
We see the project, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I don't know if everybody's aware, but there's a lot of projects associated with OWASP. I think I counted them out, something like 120. About 20 are flagship projects, which are like, hey, OWASP top 10, that sort of thing. And about 25 are lab projects. Now, these are projects that have made it to being officially supported by OWASP. And the incubator projects are all the projects that people have thought about associated with OWASP, but have yet to make it to lab project. So I'm really pleased because Threat Dragon, after, it started in 2014. So how many years is that? 7 years. We have made it to lab project, which means we're fully supported by OWASP, and they cover our costs as well. So that's why I sort of sound quite happy, because that was a long old haul. There it is, Threat Dragon. I don't know if anybody on this call is involved in threat modeling. If you are, you're probably familiar with Microsoft's threat modeling tool. If you've used it, it's quite a complex beast. I say beast in a nice way. But Threat Dragon is an OWASP project that goes to the other end, and it's a really simple, accessible tool. And we're rewriting it as well. I mean, not content with being a lab project, we're going to version 2 soon. And Leo Reading, I'm going to scroll down, there he is doing a fantastic job. He's leading the rewrite. Being a rewrite, we need loads of help. There it is, it's on GitHub. Do you want me to share it in the chat? No, I won't. You can read it as well as I can. Loads of issues, lots of version 2 stuff to do. If you're into JavaScript, Node.js, Vue framework, stuff like that, I don't know, pipelines, please help out. And I was going to give a shout out to Charles Spartacus, because he's rebuilding our RPMs for Fedora for us. So I don't know, I was just talking to him today. And that's it. I better stop there, because otherwise it'll turn into a Threat Dragon meetup, and it's not meant to be. So I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks very much, John. Thanks. I highly appreciate your input on this one and the update as well.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
I highly appreciate your update on this one.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for allowing me.
1 second. Okay, so I'll share back my screen. The next thing that I want to talk is about the OWASP upcoming events. So like I said, at the moment, there are 3 chapters of us, and the OWASP Suffolk, sorry, I was jumping ahead. As part of the trainings, the next one in line in terms of timeline, the next one would be Jim Manico's a training on the OWASP top 10, the latest one. So this would be on the 15th and 17th of December, but this would be a paid training. So this is part of that, a paid training that OWASP organizes. But like I mentioned before, if you are a OWASP member, then you'll have some discounts. And I've also listed on the page the actual prices of member and non-member. In terms of the next event, so the next event is as part of the OWASP Suffolk, and the team in OWASP Suffolk very, very active. They are already working on the next year's event lineup. They are also looking at hosting live hacking tools, demos, CTFs, workshops, and a lot. And if you want to keep an eye on it, so their Twitter handle is Suffolk, and their meetups are usually scheduled on the meetup page. Sorry, the meetings are scheduled on the meetup page. Their next event is in January 26th and is scheduled there on the meetup already. So if you want or are interested in hacking demystified, then have a look at the meeting, which is already scheduled. And I say that's all as part of the events. And tonight's speaker is Ori. Thanks very much, Ori, for agreeing to tell us more about the infrastructure as code misconfigurations. So you know that this is an area where the developers take more and more active role in it, but at the same time, because the security education is not there, there are lots of issues that can go wrong. So yeah, looking forward to hear from you more about it. I'll also stop sharing now so you can share your screen.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. And 1 second, I will screen my screen, and then we can get started. And there we go. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I would like to simply jump ahead and get started. So 42%, okay, this is the number that I want you to remember today. And what is 42% represent? It actually represents the percentage of CloudFormation configuration file that contain at least one insecure configuration. And this is 2 years ago in a research that was done. And today, I'm here to talk to you about the risks, what are we seeing, and how easy it is to prevent those using KICS, which is an open source that we created that can help you. So, hi everyone, good evening. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Ori Bendet, and I'm leading the product management side of Checkmarks. You can connect with me on Twitter. Just a quick brief of my experience. I started at HP a couple of long years ago, then founded my own company called Okito. It was a great experience. Then I moved to another startup called Time to Know, and in the last 2 years, I'm part of Checkmarks. What I have prepared for you today, just to talk a bit, as Kathy was mentioning, an introduction on what is infrastructure as code, what is the world that we live in, and then explain to you also the risks, show you and explain to you what is KICS, how can it help you, show it to you live, both as running it with 2 very simple commands as a Docker container, and also how to integrate it with a repository, a pipeline. Sorry, I will show an example of GitLab, and then just some updates about that, and we'll have plenty of time for questions. Overall, it takes approximately half an hour, give or take, so we should have enough time for questions. As mentioned, if you have questions, you can type them in the chat, and we will monitor those and answer as we move along. So let's get started. So what is the world that we live in, and what are cloud native applications? You can see here the definition from the Cloud Native Foundation, where cloud native technologies empower organization to build and run scalable application using modern technologies, containers, service meshes, microservices, immutable infrastructure, declarative APIs. And if an application is considered to be cloud native, then it is specifically designed to provide a consistent development in an automated manner across the different clouds, and in many cases also a combination of them. Why do we even care? Because there is a main difference of cloud native application compared to what we like to call traditional applications. So cloud native, the application source code is only one building block, where the rest is being saved as code, or as we like to refer to it, everything is code. It means that obviously still the application source code, but a lot of other areas, configuration as code, network as code, containers, orchestrators, and as we are about to talk about today, also infrastructure as code. And as these technologies are now shifting to be code, we can save them in the repository, we can have revisions, branches, code review, and scan them as well, and making sure that they are up to the standards that we want. Forrester, in their latest wave, and not to go over too much details, they refer to that as something that as going beyond the traditional definition of code, where the traditional is the application source code, and developers are now using infrastructure as code to define cloud configuration, and we need to find SAS tools, static analysis tools, to scan vulnerabilities in this new type of code. I just want to take 1 minute to talk about what does it mean. So it means that developers are now responsible for not only open source implementation, writing the application source code, but also the infrastructure as code, which was something which was a part of the system that they were not responsible for, and it can have a devastating effect if not treated properly. And I'm about to explain exactly what does it mean. So what is infrastructure as code? So infrastructure as code is the process of managing and provisioning software through machine-readable definition file, rather than doing that manually or automatically. If we were talking 5, 10, 15 years ago, the process was that the engineering team finished developing, came to central IT, asked for a machine, asked for firewall, asked for a database, and a couple of weeks later, everything was ready, and then they were able to do the deployment. So infrastructure as code kind of automates this entire process that I just mentioned as code, and as part of the DevOps cycle. So in a matter of minutes, you can have a change in configuration that goes to production in 3 minutes. So it allows you to speed up the configuration, reduce the cost, and eliminate the inconsistencies, because you keep using the same recipe or the same infrastructure as code file to deploy over and over. And this is one of the, these are the 3 benefits. So now that we understand cloud native, what is the difference, what is infrastructure as code, why do we even care, and why am I talking to you today? As mentioned, there has been some research about that, and what we saw and we still see is the fact that infrastructure as code is a concern. In a research that was done in early 2020 by Palo Alto Networks, they analyzed over 200,000 different infrastructure as code templates, and the findings were actually very troubling. You can see the numbers: 76% have SSH port exposed. We know that there are bots that are scanning public IPs and then brute force on an open port and can gain access on remote access on the machine itself. You can see 48% of the S3 buckets didn't have any server-side encryption and also did not have any logging enabled. If you want to see the rest of the findings, it is available in the link, and I can definitely share that with you as well. And this was 2 years ago. And over the last 2 years, I've been involved in that quite a lot. And unfortunately, not a lot has changed. In a research that our application security team done last quarter in Q3 this year, they found that the misconfigurations are still there, although there is much more awareness, and each one of those can possess a potential risk for your application once it reaches production. And if we are talking about DevOps and continuous everything, this can be a 3-minute change through the entire pipeline, and then you have something that is exposed in your production, and somebody can take advantage of that. So Docker file running as root, HTTP port 80 that is left open, ELB port that is exposed, EC2 instance that has public IP, and S3 bucket that doesn't have any server-side encryption. And these are just the top 5. The list goes on and on. So although the awareness is there, and we do still see quite a lot of issues as well. Okay, so just to make sure that everybody is aware, and I'm sure that you've seen quite a few or many cloud architecture. What are the main players? So we have the VPC, the virtual private cloud. Everything goes through the gateway. We have a WAF, a web application firewall. We have load balancer, we have application instances, and we have databases, one or many. And an example of an infrastructure as code file. In this case, we can see a CloudFormation that deploys an Elastic Bean stack on AWS. And in this case, this is CloudFormation. So this is just to make sure that everybody is aware and everybody is aligned. And this concludes the introduction part. So now I understand what is cloud native, what is infrastructure as code, and what are the risks. And now let's talk about how you can prevent those risks. So specifically for these reasons, we created KICS. KICS stands for Keeping Infrastructure as Code Secure. It is an open source project that is powered by checkmarks. I will explain exactly what is powered by means in a couple of minutes. That scans and finds misconfigurations and potential vulnerabilities in infrastructure code. So just like other tools that scan application source code and find vulnerabilities, dependency tools that scans open source and find vulnerabilities in those libraries, KICS scans infrastructure as code and finds a misconfiguration there. KICS supports the top infrastructure as code providers. You can see the list here: CloudFormation, Kubernetes, Docker, Terraform, Azure Resource Manager, Azure Blueprints, and also help charts for Kubernetes if you are using them. So this is what is KICS. The way that it's built is that we run queries. Queries is simply, in other terms, it's called policies or just the test that we check. We have 12 dedicated categories specifically for infrastructure as code. I will show you in a couple of minutes exactly the platform, the repository, so you can see everything is available. So we have availability, best practices, network and firewall, secret management, and other. Overall, KICS has over 2,000 different queries, which actually makes us the most in the market in regarding to coverage. So we have the most queries and also the largest amount of infrastructure as code tools that we support. So this is about KICS and how will a vulnerability, or in this case, a misconfiguration, and we will see that live in just a couple of minutes. In this case, we have a Terraform file for that defines a security group on AWS. So a resource with a security group on AWS. What we can see here that in this definition, port 78 till 91 is open, which means that port 80 HTTP is left open, which leaves the possibility of having unencrypted data running through your application once it reaches production, hence exposing your application and users to any man in the middle or any other attacks that is available there. So this is just one example, and I also shared with you around SSH port that is being left open. And if you want to see the rest of the misconfiguration, all of those are available on the repository. Last thing before showing it to you live, so where can you implement or start using KICS? The answer is wherever you want. You can have it locally on any developer, any engineer, any team leader machine. They can just run the Docker image and the Docker container on every or before every pull request or every push, and they will get immediate feedback even before committing the code. You can integrate with the repository, and I will show you some of the examples. You can have it as a pipeline, and you will see that live. So every CI/CD that exists, we already have guided step-by-step guides on how to implement. You can have it as a security check from moving from development to testing to staging to pre-production to production and any other process that you have. And you can also use it to detect any infrastructure as code drift detection even after you deploy your application. So all in all, this is where you can have it. My suggestion, if you are just getting started, start with the pipeline, but don't run it on every build. If you have some kind of a daily or nightly or hourly builds, start there, see how it goes, and add on top of that. So this is the best part, and this is what I'm recommending to the customers that I work with. Okay, and now let's see it live. Okay. So I will start by going to the main KICS website, which is kics.io. KICS has its own brand under KICS. Everything that we just discussed, how it can help you, what are the support, and what are the attributes is available here. Two very important links. The first one is the link to the documentation, and the second one is the link to the repository. So in the repository, you can see everything, the code, the engine, the queries, the roadmap, all the bugs, all the issues, all the feature requests. If you liked it, if you tried it, and it worked for you, we do appreciate the star. If you didn't like and something is not working for you or something is missing, I do encourage you to go and open us an issue. Or if you want to have a chat with the team, we are also available on Gitter. So we do have a live chat during office hours and even on weekends. So if you get stuck, we will help you. So this is the repository. The documentation site has everything for you to learn even more and to get started. If you want to see how to run and how to execute, everything is here. If you want to understand the underlying architecture, how we build, how the engine is working, this is also available. All the configurations, all the command line, everything is available. If you want to start contributing and write your own queries and expand KICS to add additional checks, this is also available. Integration, as I mentioned, we have a list of quite a comprehensive set of tools which we can integrate. So everything that you need is available here. So you can practically start by just reading the documentation file and getting started. The fastest way to get KICS running is using the Docker image. All you need to do is run or pull the latest KICS version from Docker Hub. We push a new version every 2 weeks. So we always encourage running with the latest one. And then the basic command is simply pointing KICS to the repository, to the infrastructure as code repository, which KICS version, how many or which queries you want to run, and what is the output. We support a couple of output formats: PDF, Sarif, JSON, HTML, and you will see those right now. So now let's get it up and running. Okay, so that should be enough. First version, first command, I will pull the latest KICS from Docker Hub. I already have it, so I am good. And now what I'm about to do is I will execute KICS on the same example that I just showed you of having port 80 that is open, and the output format will be an HTML report. You can see that I'm running a KICS version 1.4.8, which was released last Wednesday, and it takes a couple of seconds to execute. And in the meanwhile, we will open the report. There we go. As you can see, the scan already finished. In general, infrastructure as code scans are much faster compared to other application security testing tools. This one ran for 22 seconds, sorry. And I will drag the report from here. And this is how the KICS reports look. So on the top part, we see all the metadata, what version, when did it start, when did it end. This is an interactive report, so I can filter out all the information that I want. And here I get the list of issues that KICS found. In here, I get the vulnerability or the misconfiguration name, in this case, HTTP port 80, platform is Terraform, the category is networking and firewall. The description, what did we base this misconfiguration on? It can come from the cloud vendor, or it can come from the infrastructure as code provider. And we won't finish there. We will also give you remediation advice. So what was the problematic file? What is expected? What was found? And also a snippet of the code where KICS thinks that this is where you need to have the fix. And we do that for every misconfiguration that KICS find. And this information is available on every report that we have. So also the JSON file and other formats as well. So this was the first part, the Docker image, 2 very simple commands, and you have it up and running. The second is to have it running as part of a pipeline, where in this case, I have a GitLab pipeline or a GitLab repository. This is an infrastructure as code repository that simulates a real application that deploys quite a few resources on AWS using Terraform. And what I've done is that as part of the pipeline, I have configured KICS to run. In this case, I'm not using the Docker image, I'm using the Linux executable. We have executable for every platform, so Windows, Linux, and Mac. And what I'm doing here is that 2 differences from the previous execution. First of all, the output will be JSON. This will allow me to use this JSON as an artifact on the pipeline itself, and also a special KICS command which says that fail on high. So in case KICS found any high issue, the exit value, the exit code will not be 0, and I will fail the pipeline. So now let's execute it and see it live. Okay, to not waste our time, you can see that this is usually taking approximately 1 minute. So I will simply show you the previous execution. And you can see that it failed. You can see the output, the console output, and you can see that overall, this is the result summary. We had 20 issues and overall 126. You can see that the exit code is 50. If you want to learn more about the KICS exit code, this is also part of the documentation, a website that I already showed you. And as I mentioned, I can upload the JSON file as a job artifact and can see that live. I can also download it and forward it to any other system that I want and analyze it further. So this is the JSON output, and I have KICS integrated as part of my pipeline. The last thing that I forgot to show you is actually this one, where if you want to understand all the checks or all the policies that KICS is running, then we have them here in the queries list or the queries catalog. You can download them. You can filter according to severity, platform, description, category, and you can also filter according to the actual infrastructure as code. So if you want to see only the Docker or only the Kubernetes, you can easily do that and download each one of those or all of them together. Very useful when you want to take this and forward it to someone in your team, and also asking if this is something, if this some of the policies that are important to you as well. So this concludes the demo part. We saw two parts. First is the Docker execution, which is two very basic steps, and the second one is part of the GitLab pipeline. Okay, so everything that I showed you is completely open source, and it's under the Apache 2.0 license. I showed you the repository, and everything is open. You can take a look, you can see the issues, you can see the bugs, you can see the code itself, the queries. The public website is, as I showed you, it's kics.io, has everything that you need. You can see exactly what the team is working on, and we have a dedicated team in Checkmark that is leading this project together, with the community. And as I mentioned, if you have anything that you want to discuss with us, we are available on Gitter. So I do suggest that you give it a try and let us know what you think. A couple of things that we recently added, because KICS has been around for almost a year now, and all of those can be actually very helpful for you, and also to share with you the direction that we are headed into. So first of all is KICS as a service, and this is quite a fancy name for a single landing page that wraps the KICS engine as a web application. And so rather than you downloading or executing the Docker command, you even don't have to do that. All you need to do is go to the website and upload an infrastructure as code and get the results online. And I would like to show you that in a second. So if you want to get there under the main KICS website, there is a huge try it, but I didn't. I did press it. So you can see, and it gets you to there. All you need to do is agree, upload the file. I will just upload the first one. And that's it. You don't even have to download anything. You get the online results. And if you want to get the PDF, just enter your email and we will send it to you as well. And so this is how easy it is, and you get online results in just a few seconds. You can see this one is another example, and this is the KICS issues that were found. So you don't even have to download anything. So try it. It's very useful. You can get an understanding of where do you stand with your infrastructure as code. Another thing that KICS recently did is the fact that we were able to get CIS certified. For those of you who are familiar with CIS, and for those of you who don't, CIS is the Center of Internet Security, very similar to OWASP, also non-profit organization with a mission of creating the world, a better connected world, where unlike OWASP that is mostly focusing on the application part, CIS is mostly focused on configuration and infrastructure. Where the way that, just like the OWASP Top 10 or any other project, CIS has benchmarks, and those are best practices, security guides that is widely accepted. And KICS has actually been certified for AWS, both level 1 and 2. If you want to learn more about that, then you have the link here. They have very detailed explanation on what each of those steps mean. And it actually means that KICS is the first infrastructure as code security scanner that is open source, that is CIS certified. It just shows how serious we are in Checkmarks in improving and contributing to this area and this project as a whole. Okay, so what is coming next in KICS? So one of the things that we are also wanting to provide is the ability to easily generate a bill of material of your cloud resources. This is already available in the first version, so you need to trigger that with a special flag, and it will generate a JSON of all of your cloud resources, because sometimes you don't even know what you have. We are also working on improving KICS as a service, making it even easier so you can also integrate with any public GitHub repository. Coverage, we already have support for blueprints, the Azure blueprints. It's kind of the evolution of Azure Resource Manager, if you are using that. Quite a new solution from Microsoft, but we are looking to further expand. Google Deployment Manager, this is the infrastructure as code tool from Google specifically for a Google Cloud Platform, and Terraformer to further allow drift detection, as I mentioned in the past. We also have a bunch of integrations. If you are using those platforms, you will be now able to consume those directly from the platform. So if you're using HashiCorp Terraform Cloud or Red Hat Enterprise platform, so you will be able to do that. Solvo Cloud is a company that helps developers create least privilege resources, cloud resources. So you can find the problematic resources and then fix them using Solvo. We're always improving our engine itself. So performance, code coverage, accuracy, benchmarks. We've gotten quite a few feedback from people who started using that and said that this is a false positive, or this needs to be redefined, and we responded quite quickly. And deployment, we want it to be available on every machine as fast as possible. So Homebrew for Mac is already available, and Chocolate for Windows is coming next. And you can see that there is a bullet here that says feedback. So we always listen to the community. If you used it, if you liked it, that's great. If you didn't like it, please let us know what is missing. If it's something in the reporting, something in the way that the engine works. And we had several of those and we were able to fix it. So I do encourage you, give it a try. It's 3 minutes to have it up and running, 2 very basic commands, and it can really help you, as you understand by now. And with that, I would like to kind of summarize what we covered, and then we can open it up for questions. So KICS, keeping infrastructure as code, secure, open source by check marks that scans and finds misconfiguration in your infrastructure, supports the top infrastructure as code tools. It has over 2,000 different queries, and all of those are available on our repositories. And the adoption that we got is quite remarkable. We officially launched KICS in February this year, and we are just in pace to getting to 500,000 downloads. And this is mostly by the power of the community. So we didn't do actually any major marketing campaigns around that. It's simply by sending it and talking it to people in the community and among our customers. So if you want to give it a try, I do encourage you to do that. As you saw, 2 very simple steps and you have it up and running. If you have Docker already installed, it's approximately half a minute and you have it up and running. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening and also wish you a happy new year. I hope that 2022 will be secure and safe for all of us. So with that, Katie, thank you very much. And I'm more than happy to take any questions if we have those.
Thank you very much, Ori. Thanks very much. It was very, very informative. And also the fact that we have access to a tool that anyone can actually try, that's as well great for everyone. We don't have any questions in the YouTube chat, but I was thinking if we have from the audience on Zoom.
Yep, I'll start off then. Uri, I was just wondering, with the Ansible side of things, do I take it that you're checking individual properties within the YAML file? Sorry, I'm not too familiar with Ansible, but my understanding is that some developers will do things like they'll upload an entire config file. So they'll go, here is the text file for my Apache config, which might set things like the SSL cipher suite or SSL compression. It won't necessarily use that as like a particular Ansible config. It will just sort of go, here's my file, up it goes. Does KICS look through those config files as well, or is that sort of outside of its scope?
So I do. I mean, I know that Ansible kind of has like two ways. One of them is to deploy on cloud, and the other one is to deploy on premise. So everything is cloud. We cover that. So if you will deploy using Ansible on AWS, Azure, GCP, we will get the YAML files, we will scan it, and we will tell you, okay, you have an API gateway that doesn't have a web application firewall, or you have you defined an AMI that is not encrypted, or stuff like that. So this is the way that it's working. It's very similar to any other ways that we're working in Terraform, for example.
Okay, so that's more of when you are going through each of the different parts of Ansible, you're just looking at those values and saying, has it been set to this, rather than put this config file on the server. It's a big text file. Off you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Also, you gave the example of using port 80 as being open as insecure. Now, obviously, for a website, you should still have that open to do the redirect. So I'm assuming that that's the sort of thing which is commonly disabled as a, actually, this one's fine. Is that the sort of thing that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's really depends, and we did have a lot of discussion about, you know, saying that why are you checking for that? I mean, you know, like you said, I need to have port 80 open, and this is perfectly fine. I mean, and what KICS does allow you to do, and we didn't cover that, is to say, okay, don't check for this misconfiguration, because for me, that's, you know, a false positive, or that's not a misconfiguration. So you simply say, okay, don't run these queries, or don't run this entire category. Or you can also add new checks that KICS doesn't check out of the box. So this is the way. And yes, obviously, there are many other things exist, because, you know, you can say, I don't need this in my infrastructure as code because, for example, my WAF is covering this part. So it's a mix and match.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't know if you had any thoughts on Amazon's S3 in particular, because I find it's a system which is by default insecure, as in it's like everything is being switched off by default. And I'm wondering if a different approach that we should be taking is going to Amazon and saying, seriously, can't these things be on by default? You know, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, because it's sort of like, where do we solve the problem? Would we have more luck in trying to get everything off and locked down, and then you open up as you need it? And because the other thing is the encryption of the files on disk, I sometimes question how effective that is when people focus on, oh, did you make sure you tick that box? Because the chances of someone actually getting hold of the hard drive inside Amazon's data center is quite low compared to the problem of, oh yeah, we left the entire thing public. You know, it may be encrypted, but if it's public, who cares?
So you know, S3, I think it's one of the most used and the most problematic ones, especially, you know, companies that are starting to go to the cloud and or to start using cloud services. They don't understand. And I mean, in my previous companies, we had like an S3 bucket that has, you know, at the beginning, everything open. Every customer can manipulate the URL quite easily and get access to other data. Amazon has like, and I'm sure that everybody heard that, like the shared responsibility. They secure on the cloud with the customer, or, you know, the whoever consumes that secures on the cloud. I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't spoken to them, so not sure why it's off by default, but it's easy to fix. So I would recommend changing that as well.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have your product checking these things, but I would kind of like the default to be there so that what you're doing is picking up people changing away from the default and into something unsecure rather than it by default being insecure.
And one of the things that we also see, and we recently added the part of the drift detection, is that a lot of time, even if you have the best infrastructure as code defined, the pipeline is all green, but then something happens in production and somebody goes to the console and change that, and then you have no tracking of that. So it's kind of a bypass, and this is why we added the drift part to make sure that even in once you have the application in production, because there is drift always happening. So this is also another aspect.
And while we're sort of waiting for questions to come in, with the sort of saying that this is fine, do you have any particular processes that you recommend people to go back and audit them? Because obviously, when you set it up, you might say, well, this is okay, you can ignore that rule, you can ignore that rule, but 10 years down the line, does that still need to be there? And I don't know, do you sort of push for like an auditing of all of those old exceptions, or do you think they ever get to a situation where there's just so many of them that people just don't even?
So it's just like any other triaging or auditing that happens, right? I mean, same with the application source code. You might start in saying, okay, I only focus on the high ones, or I don't care about best practices. I just want to start. Let's start with those. This is what is important to me. And you can always come back and say, oh, I added or I removed too much, and now I'm not checking anything, because I had a discussion the other day. And if we don't want to have any false positives, let's just not run anything, and we will not have anything, but then we will not find anything. So it's always a delicate balance of how much we want to find versus if we will ever fix those, because if there is also the thing of alert fatigue. If we now find in your infrastructure like 5,000 issues, nobody will never fix them. So we need to find like the delicate balance of things that we find and we believe we should fix, compared to just running and never fixing them. So this is the general approach that I suggest to the people that I work with.
Katie, have you got questions come in yet? Or?
Yeah, so there is only one, I think, has already been answered partially by Ori. So the question is, what about the Google Cloud or OpenStack?
Okay, so Google Cloud as the cloud vendor is already supported. It means that if you are deploying Terraform, for example, on Google Cloud, you have full coverage there. If you are using the Google Deployment Manager, then this is coming by the end of the year. And what was the second part of the question, Katie?
The OpenStack.
So the OpenStack, it is on the roadmap. We are already supporting Kubernetes. I think it might be in the near future that we should add it. But again, if you have something that is missing, and I think we already have that on, I can quickly check on as a feature request. But if not, I do encourage you quickly go to GitHub and send us a feature request, and we will take care of that.
Okay, thanks. So I say that's all from our side. Thanks again, Ori. Thank you very much. I'm going to also put into the chat the link to the KICS.io, which basically everyone can have a look at it, have a play with it, and then learn more about it, how to avoid the infrastructure as a code misconfiguration. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a happy new year, and let's have a secure 2020. Thank you. Thanks. Happy New Year to everyone. Bye.